Breaking news. They're coming for the kids. We're coming for them! Sisters broken badges flashing in the night. Knock down doors, no warrant, no right. Take the children, tear the families apart. Hide behind protection while you rip out the heart. Files fabricated, lies on the stand. Judges in their pocket, money changing hands. Parents screaming, cameras never show. The real abuse happens when the CPS shows. Scott ever standing, fighting Tennessee DCS. For separation, they tore the family from his chest. Placed on a registry, no charges, no crime. Blount County DCS crossing every line. Evers versus the state, lawsuit in federal court. Exposing the corruption, tearing that system apart. Years of battle, justice delayed, but not denied. A father's resolve with truth on his side. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fall. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. Another case buried, another life destroyed. Numbers manipulated, stories over deployed. They call it protection, we call it abduction. State-sponsored kidnapping, legal corruption. Parents labeled unfit for daring to speak. Question the system and they label you weak. We document every raid, every lie, every theft. The resistance is growing, no more silent regret. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fade. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the people are waking. And we're coming for your throne. No more silence. No more fear. The revolution starts right here. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every single day. Got it for CPS. Your kingdom's gonna break for every parent, for every child set free. CPS, we're gunning for thee. This is the podcast, Gunning for CPS, hosted by Scott Evers. Relentless in his fight, Evers versus Tennessee DCS. A father who refuses to yield, exposing every injustice, demanding accountability, reclaiming what was taken. The battle continues. Stay vigilant. The truth is our weapon.
This is the reckoning. Blount County CPS.
Your time has come!
Gunner Evers rising, shadow in the fight. Blount County CPS stealing children in the night. No warrant, no warning, they crossed every line. Took his child away, tried to bury the crime.
Fabricated files, twisted every truth. Placed him on a registry with no proof.
Federal court now watching every move they make. The system is shaking, the foundation starts
starts to break.
No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is
Coming here, the battle cry. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS. Your empire's in flames. The reckoning. Justice finally calls your name. For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay.
there's hell to pay.
Evers versus Blount lawsuit cutting deep, exposing corruption, secrets they can't keep. Years of separation, heart ripped from his chest. Yet he stands unbreakable, refusing to rest. No charges filed, but they branded him a threat. Now the court is watching, collecting their debt. Blount County, DC, yes, your days are numbered fast. The father's fight is real, this reckoning will last.
No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is coming.
Hear the battle cry. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS. Your empire's in flames. The reckoning. Justice finally calls your name. For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay.
There's hell to pay. You came for the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the reckoning rises, and you stand alone. Alone, 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 alone.
No mercy. No escape. The people are awake. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers leads the fight. Blount County CPS vanishing from sight. The reckoning walls are crashing down tonight. For every parent watching, for every stolen child. The reckoning is here, and we're running wild.
Gunner Evers, still standing strong. Blount County CPS. The reckoning has only just begun. Truth is the weapon.
Justice will be gone.
I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gonna be biblical.
Well, who are we going to piss off today with our knowledge and information? Welcome to another edition of Gunning for CPS. I'm your host, Gunner. I hope you guys have had a great week, the best you can as you're going through. I hope your studies are going well. I hope that you guys are preparing, hopefully getting your federal cases together as we progress forward. We're going to probably be burning some of the midnight oil and a few other things, working on some more constitutional questions to submit to the court. The concept of the constitutional questions is just so for some of you guys that don't know the federal realm, is you can come in with a 1983 and ask these federal questions for clarification from the court before you proceed. It basically gives you an outline, or like, these are our boundaries. I'm not going to say and go into court and say, well, this is and this isn't. We're going to go forward with the question, hey, is this constitutional? And this is our reasoning behind why we feel this is unconstitutional, or what needs to be done. We need some clarification from the court. And constitutional questions affect all 50 states immediately. So you don't have to shall we say, go through, well, this case law, it's only affects this division, it only does this. No, constitutional questions, whether they're asked in California, Vermont, Connecticut, Florida, Texas, it doesn't matter. Those type of questions, this is the thing that they don't tell you. When those questions are answered and they're formatted in the way that they are, um, they're supposed to be notified. Constitutional questions, as a matter of fact, are supposed to be sent to your state attorney general or whatever state attorney general, and also to the U.S. Attorney's office in Washington, because then they will let know, and it's then their responsibility to affect. So they say, hey, this is a constitutional question. This is how it's answered. Therefore, this is how we prosecute. These are considered crimes, so to speak, and they get that clarification through there. Next week we're going to do something. If I can get a hold of the producer a little bit, I know he's been a little busy in and out, but I'm going to see if he can't sit in next week. And I'll give you guys a QR code here on the show and actually come on the show. I ask some quick questions. We're going to probably set it up for probably doing a special or something, like a little bit longer episode than what we usually do. Usually we have about an hour to 2 hour window. But if we can get that worked out, then maybe we'll be able to answer a few questions. But we're going to have to limit the time probably on people. And that's the thing that I'm going to have to get with the producer of saying, hey, we're going to open up the call, to the guest, or bring somebody in backstage. So, with that link and stuff, then they would bring you in, or they would, kind of sit in, so to speak, with that and say, hey, we've got so-and-so from here, Bob from, say Kentucky or whatever else. And then come on the show. Okay, well, then you've got so much time to have that, conversation or so on and so forth, because we don't want to get it backed up, but we want to answer a lot of questions. And now we're not going to get specific in the case. It's more, like I said, education. Yeah, we're not going to go listen to your entire case and go, now I need to know what to do. No, we're not going to take up a show for that entire time. That's just not going to work. Just to clarify. So if it gets to that, hey, I need to tell you more. No, this is your time limit. Ask your question. Let's get some specifics. If you're a little confused on, things that are readily available, basically that's what and we actually share, is that information on Constitution. This is stuff that's out there for you guys. Basically, we're consolidating and we're telling you what we've read. Is what it is. We've looked at the case law. We've done this. We've done that. It's not legal advice. Once again, it's not advocacy where that's that one-on-one thing. This is education. And we're seeing a big change in our country. And I don't think a lot of people understand this, but with the change that's going on in our country because of the internet, because of, I grew up in a time when there was no internet. Didn't exist at all. Seen the birth of it and birth of several other things. Everybody's like, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, we've had a lot happen just in my lifetime. But this flow of information with the internet, and because of our Constitution, that they are really not supposed to restrict a lot of things, other than, obviously nudity, things that are age appropriate, so on and so forth. But and that's the irony of it, because if you don't know the history of the internet, the thing that actually saved the internet from being what it could have been and died out, because it had many failures, was pornography. It was the number one thing that basically made the internet push and more demand for pornography. That's kind of like the dark history of the internet. But now that we have all this information, we have phones with internet capabilities, search engines, it's even produced AIs, so on and so forth, that aid a lot in research. Number one, a lot of people forget, well, what they expect. Well, I just want to be able to do something like Tony Stark does, on with Jarvis, or whatever he calls it, the program as the movies evolve and so on and so forth, is the more recent comparison I can give you. But it's one of those things that unless you program, you forget that Tony Stark built Jarvis. he didn't just, here's the basic thing. He programmed it to look at certain things a certain way he did, a certain way this did, or this, that. But one of the faults too, that, and a friend of mine, we were having that whole conversation, especially with this AI, was, even when Tony Stark created the new element, Jarvis didn't know what it was because he wasn't programmed to think outside that box. And that's what a lot of this is you got to understand the reason it was what it was is he spent the time with it. He built it. He gave it its parameters. It basically knew what he knew and dumped it on a digital footprint, so to speak. That's one thing you have to understand with a lot of these AIs, you guys that are working with these AIs, is you still have to do the research. It's an aid. And you can do your own programming. You just can't go in and ask, I heard a lot of people, well, ChatGPT. That's why that system just, like I said, that I'm not a big fan of ChatGPT. Matter of fact, a lot of people lose a lot of credibility when they start using, well, ChatGPT. No, because it's been known to give false information as well as other AIs. There's stuff in the coding. And if you know how to read that type of stuff, you can pick AI generated stuff out really easy. It's like, oh, that's ChatGPT. Oh, that's Grok. Oh, that's, all these different ones. It's like, well, how do you know that? You just look at it. I mean, you look at it long enough. Once again, I'm a technical person. So it's easier for me to see that than the average person would. Mona Martin 2025. You're welcome. I'm glad you guys are finally able to see your son. There's a lot of things we're fighting for right now. Yes, they are hating the exposure. Matter of fact, there's tons of exposure all over the U.S. because of you guys. I mean, I've been doing this for a couple of years, exposure, trying to get my case together, trying to get my research done. Tried to file in 2025 till I was retaliated against, extremely retaliated against, while we were trying to go through due process and go through the systems of how much was there. And then once I got into it, I was amazed at the amount of laws they broke, and statutes and codes, that the state stuff, because laws, there's only certain laws. Not only did they violate the Constitution, they violated state statutes, codes, and the policies, procedures. I mean, even the state's constitution, in my case, it's that extreme. But a lot of people don't know to research that and articulate and say, hey, that fits for me. That happens to me. And that's why I recommend to you guys, go read your Constitution again. Read it slow, because there's stuff you missed that a lot of people miss, which is one of our basis of our number one constitutional question, is under the 10th Amendment, which gives power to the states, explicitly says that they can have or delegate these powers to the states and or to the people. That it turns around and says, except those powers that are delegated to the federal government. Well, we go into Article 3, Section 2, which is original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. In other words, all cases that must originate in the Supreme Court. Well, it explicitly says all cases where a state's a party. Now, they're going to confuse it. I've heard people, well, that means state to state, or this has been, and it's been interpreted that way. But that's not what the Constitution says. Because you have to go back and say, well, how do you know it says that? Because we go back to the original writers. And there's a whole conversation in the Federalist Papers, under Alexander Hamilton, especially section Federalist Paper number 80, that goes through and it explicitly talks why Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 is in there, was explicitly to stop a group of people in the state that get into government positions and abuse that power to go after an individual or go after a group of people. In other words, a religious organization or this or that. You can't do that. That's why those cases go through there. And I take the fifth. I see you there. Yeah, 7 judges, 12 lawyers, 200K, 7 year. Yeah, only as pro se litigant were you able to find the best settlement agreement you could. Yeah, I mean, it's a waste of time. And so you've exposed part of that, which we've exposed in our filings, that yes, this does include the bar. The American Bar Association, the state, in my particular thing, state of Tennessee, and and eventually it'll be state of Kentucky on there too, with the way this is all connected. The Bar Association, how is it all of you practice law? All of you have a license, you have a bar card, you have all these other things to say, and an oath. Did you miss something that the state couldn't hear cases of its own when it was a party? How do you miss that? They didn't. They found a way to make money. And what did they do? They shifted one little thing, and then they got somebody else up in there. Well, this ruling, that only means for state versus state. This is where we go. Read the whole damn thing. It included state versus state, but it also says all cases where the state's a party. So if you have your state that you live in that's the plaintiff, you're supposed to be in the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court is limited. It only hears certain cases, this, that. You have federal court, it's completely different. That's broken up into divisions. That's the lower court system below the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court makes up of a very thin amount of cases they hear, which is, where you get your Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals. Then you have SCOTUS. That's also a form of the appellate system. But then you have those cases, those that we're talking about, that they should be in here. And what was it? The feds didn't want to take on the caseload, make it look federalized. Well, that was unconstitutional for you to do that. That's why that case we were telling you guys about, and if you follow me on Facebook or on TikTok, and you guys have followed a couple of those different things, West Virginia. There was a case in West Virginia that basically the division court judge says, no, we don't hear family court cases, this and this and that. And they sent it to the Court of Appeals. And the Court of Appeals goes, oh, hell no, you're going to hear this. Matter of fact, they have a constitutional right for this case to be heard, even though it's family court, because it's a state case. And they forced them to take the case. Now, do you think that one thing that doesn't make sense to me, if that happens, I think a different judge, in my opinion, should be assigned, because that judge is screwed up. Because you had to file to the appellate court. Why would you go back before the same one and then force them to take the hearing? Think about that. But there's a lot of things moving in our society and everything else besides CPS, and this is more of the big picture. Okay, you guys think, well, Gunner, you're off track. You're not talking about CPS. You're not talking about. No, I'm talking about the big picture. I'm talking about things that you don't think of that are connected. You see, if you don't know who Georgia Tan is, out of Memphis, Tennessee, and I think I'm getting that right, she ran one of the largest child trafficking things in the whole United States right here in Tennessee, out of Memphis. And if you don't know who that is, go look at it, because they learned so much from this woman. And the other part you hear is this woman did this, but you know what you don't hear, part of that story that they've hidden, is that she worked with a family court judge out of Memphis to steal damn children. This isn't anything original. This goes all the way back to Georgia Tan. They just got smarter on how not to get caught. They knew about it with Georgia Tan, and they knew about it down in Arkansas. Gee, what are you talking about, Gunner? Where did the family first? It was Clinton administration. 2 disbarred attorneys on how to make the bar and all their buddies more money. We were in a different place, man. We're coming to find out the evils of all the people that are before, and the stuff that they've been doing, and the fact that they have, that one, now we know for sure that they've killed an American president over the policies and the other things that are quieted, and so on and so forth. And, and I've had this conversation before too. A lot of people say the nation of Israel or the Jewish people or this and that. Listen, man, you've got to understand the dynamic between that, because what you think is true is not true. There's people that go on. I knew people that were raised in churches. Well, the Jews are God's chosen people. Did you read any of the other parts of the New Testament to where, Yeshua himself turns around and says, There is now no more Jew, no more Gentile, no more man, no more woman, no more this and that. You're all the same. There is no more this and why, because there's been a new covenant put into place. I said, did you miss that? Well, God, that's still God's chosen. No, that went away when they rejected. Y'all better wake up. And the people that are calling, I mean, do you guys realize that people in Israel do not want to do a DNA test to establish their heritage? But it's the number one thing. 23andMe and all these others and all these went through and all this, and do your descendants and this. Imagine finding out everything. Well, I was told. I mean, how many people decided this here in America? And this is the funny part. Well, I heard I had Dutch in my family, or I had this, or I had this trait, or I had that trait. And then they do this blood test, this DNA marker test, which they've markered this stuff through anthropology, throughout time of those particular traits. They've got that information now of origins way back when. All these tests, that's what all this stuff's being combined under, and going, now you come from this. Imagine being like in the tribe of Levi and one of the high priests, and they do a DNA test and come to find out you're not even part of the bloodline and you're not even supposed to be there. It would shock power away from their whole religious and political based system that people don't realize. And I knew this and said, well, Gunnar, how do you know it? I knew a guy that was, once again, I've met several people that are called converted Jews, people that were of the Jewish faith, like rabbis, and they accept, who Yeshua was and what they did and everything else, to the point of turning around. I know this is split, but this is all together. And let me track this, because they had many people that would impersonate or this, and this was where I think we're missing the missing piece when I went down a lot of stuff with World War II, this and that. And you say, well, why do you say that? Because my grandfather served. And the stories he told from first person perspective of what he seen, and others, when you listen, and this is what they don't want to, they don't teach you in a classroom. And this is why they want to destroy your families, is to erase all of this history. Firsthand experience of what they seen, like with my grandfather. He goes, man, they weren't they were, camps, but it wasn't like what they were thinking, that they were doing this or that, gas chambers and all the other. He said they were delousing them. He said, do you know how much of a lice problem they had? That's what it was for. Lice was out of control and they didn't know how to deal with it, because they were getting rid of the old world magic, the old remedies and everything. So they had a lice infestation. And so it's something they had to deal with. He says, we had to deal with. That's why they shaved everybody's heads. When we went into the military, everybody got it high and tight, or just meh. Why? Lice. But you didn't hear about that. And then they confused a group of people with another group of people. Well, it's this sect, but it's over here. And this is the same thing that we deal with here. It's like saying the stereotypical stuff. And we've seen this all throughout our history. Whether it's within the Black community, it's within the Native American community, it's with the Japanese community. There's a stereotype that goes out there, but it's not all people. That's what we have to understand. And there were certain that claimed to be something because they were born into it, or once again, you got to understand a lot of the basis for that were nomads. But that's going down a different realm. But this is what we're talking about, is some of that didn't die, because you have Project Paperclip. You have other things. You have MK Ultra. These other things where we took people from Germany. They're scientists and this and that, and some of these other people that came in, even people like they know today, George Soros, was very well documented what he did for the SS Army. But yet he's over here and free. How does that happen? Not all of those. Some of them they took in because they wanted to learn from them. They wanted to get some of their research, some of their medicine, some of the different advancements or whatever that they may have had or whatever, and they wanted to absorb it to gain and become stronger. Once again, we dance with the devil, you're going to get burned. That's what we're dealing with now, because those people came in. They came in with power, money, and energy, and then they're rubbing elbows. So listen, I'll give you more, especially people, because who were they working with? A lot of this was a lot of a covert op, at the time, especially with these things with the CIA. They were, experimenting. They were pushing human nature. They were pushing, experimenting with LSD and doing this and doing that, even to the point of the MK Ultra saying, listen, if you smoke cannabis, you're less likely, this kills me, you're less likely to be mind controlled or taken advantage of. So what did they do? They outlaw cannabis so they could bend your mind. Now, let's go a little bit further. Not only do they get into that, they get into manufacturing, they get into several other things this that. So it used to be little mom and pops and everybody used off the farms and blah, blah, blah. And then these big conglomerates come out. We're going to centralize this system. We're going to make it big. Why? Because that's the idea, is industrialization and making everything under one thing. It's, listen, you can't make food like you make cars. It's just not going to work because people are too particular, which is why you have a vast variety of fast food places all across this country. Now, they're going to look for things in a business sense, even though the morale of this country to look out for your fellow American has extremely declined. We don't look out for our neighbor. We don't look out for each other. We don't do the right thing no matter what it costs. And that ended up biting us in the butt, because in the 80s, and they started substituting with things like, hey, we found something that is considered, we can get past as edible, consumes for the body, like corn syrup and other things that are not natural for the body. Hey, we've worn corn out. Listen, you got liquor from it. You got ethanol, which goes in your gas. It's in your food within the corn syrup. I mean, hell, you used to get pure. When I was growing up, it was a thing. People, I don't know how they did it. It was nasty as hell. But Cairo was pure corn syrup. I mean, it was the poison that they were putting in Coca-Cola and everything. And now we're finding out that stuff is causing cancers and everything else. Our food changed us. So let me ask you this. Let's track something. Now, I am not singling out. Let me make this clear. We're reporting, we're investigating, and we're asking questions. What was the biggest thing to hit in the 2000s on up that exploded that, let's put it this way, every white girl in America had to have one? And somewhere in the comments, guys, I see you guys watching. Speak up here if you're watching. Get some comments. What was some of that? Let's interact a little bit. I mean, what was the thing that every white girl had to have and still does almost today? Starbucks. Did you know that, some of that stuff there, that they've even admitted that there's flowers and other things and stuff like that are in that particular brand of coffee or other things that they use? What if they added something or took something away that you don't know about that's in those little pink drinks or anything else that changes your hormones? You want to know why feminism went all the way up what it did and some of the other things that just went so extreme? Food, our drinks. It's not just water with a little lime juice and ice. It was this chemical and this chemical and this chemical. Oh, Mona, let me tell you something. A white girl's pumpkin spice during the holidays, Thanksgiving, this, that is pumpkin spice, everything you could throw up. Do you know how bad coffee creamer is for your body? The Coffee Mate and this and this and that. It's not like it used to be. People don't want to do the work. They want to do the shortcut. There are healthy alternatives you can do and make that stuff at home to where it's healthy. Much healthier using original ingredients. But once again, we don't want to get our hands dirty. These are people that, and we've moved from a thing of saying, hey, you're eating the beef, you're eating the chicken. Well, why you got to go out and kill the animals? How do you think it gets to the supermarket? How do these are butchers and this and that. Do you not realize? Well, that's just cruel. Just go to the supermarket like everybody else. And then they get on people that hunt. What's wrong with hunting? Well, this baby deer, do you know what kind of damage a deer will do in a rut? If you don't control the population, it will destroy your property. Oh, yeah, a whole state on the Eastern Coast learned this one the hard way. I believe it was Connecticut or Delaware or something like that. But yeah, soybean went through the damn roof for all the things. Do you know how much damage soybean does to the ground? Do you know how much good or it replenishes or removes the toxins and everything else that hemp does or marijuana does for the ground? Do you know that a marijuana plant or a cannabis plant or anything else produces 50, 60, 70, 100 and some odd times more oxygen than a fucking tree? And it fixes your soil. And yet we've had a problem with this. It's not about what's best for us as Americans. It's about control. It always has been. I mean, the guy that wrote the sponsor to the bill to make marijuana illegal was a Democrat. And I'm going to say this because this is his quote. Once again, we can't have these niggers taken in shacking up with our white girls. This is the drug that they use to seduce our white girls. Literally, that's on the congressional record. You can go look it up. That's messed up. And for anybody going, hey, can't we just repeal this under the fact that that was racist as hell and not true? That bill got passed because it's not true. We took lives for this, but now we've substituted convenience because people don't want to do nothing. And I always laughed because I where I grew up, I knew my grandmother and my great grandmother. My great grandmother was on a farm, and I remember visiting her. I mean, that little small, self-contained. They grew up poor. They grew up during the Great Depression. We heard those stories. We knew what it was and knew that we had to prepare, never be reliant. The first thing that one of my first exos used to get on me all the time for stockpiling some things here and there of necessities, having like 6 months worth of meat, canned goods, paper products, this and this and that. And go, I don't understand why you spend all that extra money and everything that we have in here and the other freezer and all that other stuff, because the grocery store will never run out of food. Then COVID hit. Then we come to find out that's not true. We had shortages all over the place. You had people trying to sell toilet paper for $200 for a big pack or something. I mean, it's freaking crazy. And I'm over here, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Worst case scenario, jump in the shower and wash that ass. You realize we're the only country in the world that uses toilet paper? You need to get out of your little, you need to figure some shit out. Okay? We have forgotten where we came from. This country has seen so much from the Great Depression, from 2 world wars, Vietnam, the Korean War, Iraq, all these Iranian conflicts, the Great Wall, watching the wall get put up in Germany, watching it fall. But the problem is that we've become convenience because we just don't want to do the work, because if we really had to do the work to get everything else, we're like, damn, I'd just rather pay a little money. When once again, they're trapping you in that same damn system, because why would you want to just spend your money on it when you don't need to? If it just took a little work and you had it or you didn't have it, and live off of a small garden or a few other things here and there, you live off of what you got. And that's less hours you got to work. Why? Because you're growing stuff and you know where it comes from. I mean, you can do little things in houses, or, look into, you guys don't believe me, look into aquaponics or hydroponics, using, water systems. Aquaponics is using fish. You can have fish, right? Circle that. You can do a home setup. I've seen some guys, I've helped some people do things electrically and set up some great home aquaponic systems that they grow their own stuff with their own fish. And they, on top of it, the fish they got into it, with especially one particular project, it was some high-end damn fish, man. It wasn't no damn joke. I mean, one guy turned around and he goes, "Oh no, I got these fish and they spawn off and they're like $75,000 a fish." I'm like, "Are you? Oh my God, what the hell?" Yeah, it's like a rare fish. Microgreens, several others. Yeah, we're mineral deficient. I mean, they've told us that salt's bad for us. That's because they isolated the salt element, NaCl, and didn't put the minerals in it. This is why you need the minerals with the salts to balance it out and absorb it. And you have to forgive me with a cough. Once again, congestive heart failure and the new medicine, the cardiac cough comes a little with it, but that's okay. It's supposed to do wonderful things with the med change. Yes, I was laid up for a little bit because I had to go in the hospital because they did a massive medication change on me with something that is supposed to be completely different and really help out. I think a lot of people have already that have known me for a while that say, "Wow, you're really bouncing back. You seem to have a little bit more." I'm getting used to it. My heart's getting used to it. But I go into this thing with this and the food because maybe it explains why the deterioration of our family. Maybe people will recognize maybe those ain't hard to think, because if you'll notice the pattern when people fall into this norm of doing what everybody else does, of going to get the hottest drink or this or this or that, do you really know what's in your food? What if it's causing hormone changes? What if it's once again, what happens when you add estrogen? Men turn a little bit more fruity, if you will, to my day, and the women become more violent because of all that estrogen. And it messes with your mind. Once again, this is a form of, once again, you guys should really look into that MK Ultra and some of the other things that, like I said, they're declassifying a little bit at a time, but hormone and frequency manipulation is a number one way to make somebody lose their freaking mind. I mean, you don't realize it, and they'll sling it to you all day long. And you'll pay for it. And that's where I'm looking around. I'm like, listen, man, I would much rather this and that. And everybody goes, "Well, that's a slave being over here in the kitchen." I go, shit, I would love to have grown up. If I had that opportunity to grow up in a kitchen and cook and grow and this and that, and let alone hunt and do some of those more simple things. Why? Because it's such a joy. It's just to sit and create something and taste everything fresh. If you've never had a dish that's been made from scratch, and I'm not talking going to the store, I'm talking going to your garden or going to here and getting this fresh or that fresh and then making something fresh. It makes a world of difference in your flavor palette. And but all of that goes into the history that they don't want us to tell our children. They don't want to tell, they don't want us to turn around and tell our children, "Hey, I went through this, or this is going on," or, "Hey, your your great grandparents or your grandparents or this, that." You lose all this stuff when they steal these kids and then they put them into homes or foster homes, or then they try to adopt them out. Their history's fucking erased, and it fucking destroys a human being. They have no identity. And you have so many people that I know follow me on different platforms, especially those that have been adopted, that turn around, Gunner, it's just so terrible. I mean, sometimes there's some connection, but most of the time there's not. It's just cold of, well, this is just what they told us. And now we're going back and we're looking at the system of saying, from the first kid taken because of a CPS case, they never had jurisdiction to hear this. You're talking 30, 40 years worth of corruption. And now I've had a lot of, and this is funny because I get a lot of people that will report my posts on TikTok or Facebook or this or that on some aspects, or, "Hey, your video was taken down because of this and that." And then I challenge, like, listen, I'm press. I've researched this. All of this is true. I have all the things. If you don't want a lawsuit, once again, hey, it's me again. You want that lawsuit for First Amendment rights violation because this is just advertising on stuff that's well out here? I have no problem backing it up. And my videos are usually restored in less than 24 hours. But nice try. You tried to piss me off, but once again, you're playing checkers still. I'm playing chess. But the Constitution is supposed to be the line we the people have set for everyone in government, whether it's federal, state, local, it does not matter. You don't cross these lines. Why? There are statutes and codes and some of the other bullshit that there is on the books in these states. One particular one that always comes up is the Second Amendment. What part of shall not be infringed? Let's stop splitting hairs. It says we the people have the right. And here's the issue, and this is great timing, and I want you guys to really pay attention to this. The Supreme Court has just overturned part of the National Firearm Act and repealed it and said they called it unconstitutional. You can't do this. This has been about tracking. As soon as they took the tax off, well, it ain't about taxes no more. Did you notice they didn't bring up the Second Amendment in that ruling? Yeah. And the psychological aspect, understanding that CPS is 100% based in psychology, not in fact. Shoulda, coulda, wouldas. You can't do that in this country. And that's what's getting to be, once again, the multiple constitutional questions will go, hey, is this constitutional? Because this is what they do. Let's clear this up. This has got to be answered before we can move forward. Because if this is true, and that's why we tell you guys, listen, when we get this stuff and we get these answers, we're going to push till we get the answer we want. Number two, because it's what the Constitution says, and we know it, we ain't stupid. But second off, letting you guys know, because then you can go up and say, hey, here's the constitutional question that was just recently asked, and this was the answer. You're screwed. Even to the point of what's called fruit from a poisonous tree, and this ends now. But it gets even worse. Because what we're finding out is those people that were in power for the past so many years, that evil has crept in because we have traded it out for a false sense of safety. We're here to protect the children. We're here to protect the children. Let me tell you something. You ain't protecting dick. Nothing. Why? Because safety is an illusion. It always has been. The idea here in America, especially with a constitutional republic, is to have dangerous men and women that if the needs arise, they're willing to do some really god-awful shit to keep it constitutional and stop tyranny. Matter of fact, every single one of our members of the armed forces has taken the oath, the same oath the judge, the president, and everybody else has, to protect and defend the Constitution of these United States. This republic for which it stands. It's just that simple. And when they fail to do that, there's the other problem, and I've dealt with this too. Consequences for the actions. Now, if you don't know, I'm from Blount County, Tennessee. Same one as Jessica Saxton, a lot of politicians and everything else. But when you have a judge that aids and abets their child in destroying evidence of child pornography in a federal case, or a teacher that is known to have touched inappropriate touching of over 80 kids, and only I think 20 of them he stood before, and he gets a slap on the wrist, 6 months suspended, and then off the list. You tell me. Nope. Do 6 months probation, this and that, you're off the list. Oh, you lose your teaching license for a year and a half. Oh, you helped your son do this and that. Well, we're going to give you a slap on the wrist and do probation on you. You know, oh, bad you. What the hell? But you're going to be tough. Well, I'm just following state shit. You do what the people want in that area. And what we feel, once again, you got somebody dead to rights in a criminal case, and you followed the Constitution, I got no problem. Do what you got to do. Because I guarantee you one thing, by the time they hit Gen Pop or anything else, our prison system seems to take care of itself in a lot of ways. Exactly. So I take the fifth. We, the people, allowed this to happen over decades. The forefathers spoke of revolution every 15 years. Reform, yeah, was basically the thing. But yeah, usually for a country, we are well overdue for another civil war, because usually one happens every 200 years for every country throughout history. I mean, to survive. The problem is, and what you pointed out there, do you guys realize that in the Declaration of Independence, our founding framers even foretold of the day like today? Yeah. It explicitly says when we trade up our freedoms a little bit at a time for comfort, for safety. But then it gets to the point that if somebody has that great power, also means for great corruption. That's also another founding father. We can't give the government too much. Why? Because it will cause too much chaos. Of too much power gets a big head, which is why we, the people, wrote the Constitution to limit the government. So when these people get like this, we have a way to remove them. And in the Declaration of Independence, it explicitly tells us it's not only our duty, but it's our, it's our obligation, but it's also our duty. See, we don't know what that word duty means anymore. Like these people don't know what oath means. Matter of fact, I was going through and I was looking, up at a couple different things, and I heard this. Somebody sent this to me, and this deals with the flock cameras. Okay, this is something to deal with the Fourth Amendment and so on and so forth. But this specifically, and I want you to listen to what this gentleman to. Once again, this is the Escobia commissioner. I believe I believe it's somewhere down in Florida. But let me play this for you. And this is where we should be, and all of our elected officials need to understand where they should be and their frame of mind. Now, we've talked about this with the constitutional lens. But like I said, you got to see this, man. This guy hit it right on the nose. Check this out.
I'll tell you this. This is what I wrote recently. So I took an oath to support and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, and a lot of us have. Some of us up here on this dais. The oath didn't come with exceptions. It didn't say defend the amendments you agree with and ignore the ones that are inconvenient. It didn't say defend some rights more vigorously than others. It just said defend the Constitution. I believe in the Constitution. That means I support the First Amendment, whether I agree with someone, what he's saying or not. And there's a lot of people I don't agree with. But, I mean, even hate speech is protected. I support the Second Amendment, whether someone owns a firearm or chooses not to own one. I support the Fourth Amendment because every American has the right to be secure against unreasonable government intrusion. So, Margaret, I wrote this after I heard you talk. And I thought this would be a good time to talk about it after I heard Jacob talk. Our constitutional rights are not guaranteed, are not granted by government. They are protected from government. I think I heard Stan say that today. That's why I have concerns about flock camera systems. So I understand the argument in favor of them. We all want safe communities. We all want law enforcement to catch dangerous criminals, recover stolen vehicles, and solve serious crimes. Public safety is one of the most important, I think it's the most important responsibility of government. But our founders understood something equally important. A government powerful enough to monitor everyone is powerful enough to abuse everyone. The Fourth Amendment was written because our nation's founders had experienced general warrants and broad government surveillance under the British Crown. They intentionally placed limits on government power because liberty requires those limits. Do we allow convenience to slowly erode liberty? I believe we should be extremely cautious whenever government expands its ability to collect information on law-abiding citizens. Some will say, if you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to fear. But that has never been the standard in America. The American standard is that government should have a reason before it intrudes on your privacy, not that citizens must prove they deserve privacy. That brings me to another issue some people in this community know well. It's customary use. Also, something that's important to me, I have consistently opposed government taking private property rights without following the constitutional process. I've supported preserving public access where legal rights already exist, such as the 75-foot public easement on Perdido Key. But I oppose expanding government authority beyond what the Constitution allows. Why? Because property rights are a constitutional right. Whether we're talking about your home, your land, your vehicle, or your personal privacy, the principle is the same. The Constitution is not a buffet where we pick the rights we like and ignore the rest. Every amendment matters. Every constitutional protection matters. Every citizen deserves protection under the Constitution. I believe elected officials should always begin with the simple question: does this expand government power? And if it does, is that expansion truly necessary? Is it narrowly limited? Is it transparent? Is it consistent with the Constitution? Those questions are not obstacles to good government. They are foundational to good government. Our freedoms have rarely disappeared overnight or all at once. History shows they are often surrendered gradually, one reasonable exception at a time, until people look back and wonder how they lost the rights they've taken for granted. I will continue to evaluate every issue through the same lens. Is it constitutional? Because if we're willing to compromise one constitutional right today, we make it easier to compromise another one tomorrow. I believe in the whole Constitution, not just the parts that are politically convenient. I believe in all of them.
That's what we call common sense. See, a lot of you need to go out there and get that other book. We recommend, different books like the Federalist Papers, this and that. But Thomas Paine's Common Sense should be on your absolute reading list. Why? Because it's constitutional. It's how you're to view the Constitution with some common sense. And as they say, common sense isn't that common anymore. Maybe we need to get back to that. The other thing that I have a question for is, how do you take and implement a system that is an absolute failure, that has an 83% national rate of failure? That's right, 83% of the cases to where kids were taken, according to their own internal study by CPS, nationwide, Department of Health and Human Services, explicitly turns around and says, we screwed up. Kids should have never been taken. 83%. That's a failure in business, but yet they want more and more and more and more money for something that is an absolute failure. Second, do you better the lives of these children that you supposedly have taken, put it into foster care, this and that? No. You destroy them. You destroy their culture. This is a genocide of the American family, and you're trying to eliminate the history of certain people based on somebody's opinion, not a criminal case. Not a criminal case. But this is where they're holding criminal trials in a civil courtroom with the lowest bar, and not, even to the bar, there's not even a bar there like there was in my case at all. This was just, you're guilty, we don't give a shit, and this is just the way it's going to go. Let's ignore all the evidence. Let's rule the rules of evidence. Let's ignore the state's constitution, all these different things, because we feel that you're not doing a good enough job. That is the government coming in to steal your children, to say you're not good enough, but yet the government has never birthed one child. Now, the other thing that's kind of burned me up today, and you guys can come for me all you want. Watch TikTok just kind of flip me out, and every once in a while, now they're changing my algorithm, so now I'm getting all the family attorneys bombarding me with all their bullshit and their lies. And once again, calling them out has been fun because a few of them go, "Hey, what are you going to do about this?" Or, "Hey, what about this?" They just avoid it like the plague, and all of a sudden, yeah, well, what about the? Oh, hi, how you doing? I'm that guy. Yeah. So there's once again, there's all that, but I saw on there where it says, and I had somebody else run into this. I mean, but this just burned me up. Um, this one mom gets on there and says, "Are we teaching our boys to sit when they pee?" Excuse me? Well, I'm not clean. I know if it's a boy, you teach him to clean up, and it's once again, but there's part of that learning process called parenting. And second off, how are you telling somebody that you don't have the equipment, so to speak, to tell them how to use their equipment? Well, I'm their mother. Yeah, you're doing a really bad job. Why? Because once again, this goes into our DNA. Let me get up here real close, piss you off real good. A little boy learning to hold his thing to pee is teaching him how to aim. But you don't want to talk. Well, that's violent, male chauvinist, all this other behavior. You know that's going to be funny is, you know what? I pray that we get into a place that society falls and they come for you. And then those men or those little boys that you raised to be the way that you did and not be the men that they needed to be. Yes, dangerous, violent, this and that, but under control and discipline because you need them. Because they'll be the first ones to the slaughter and they won't defend you. And then who's going to be there? Because I sure as hell won't. You're on your own. Hell no, I heard what you said. Go figure it out yourself. It ain't going to stop them. You know what's going to happen then? The things you don't want to happen, the real shit that happens, stuff that happens during, some of these veterans can tell you during the war-torn stuff and all these other things where they go in and they just bowl over people like that. And then they come after you. And you know what they do? Unspeakable things to women like you just to break you because of your big mouth. You don't believe me? Happens all the time and all the time. Every conflict, same damn thing. Blah, blah, blah. Those men go in, they spout all that stuff in these countries. Well, that's just not right. That's not human. Didn't say it was right. Didn't say it was human. I did say it's part of human nature, and history teaches us you're not going to change that. For evil people to do evil things. That's just the facts. This is why history is so important, because if we don't know our history, our true history, we tend to repeat it. So yeah, they're going to come for people like that, I'm going to teach my little boy to do this. And I had somebody else and go, oh no. Matter of fact, the one boy, I won't get into anything other than the fact that the father found out this was happening, and they were in a foster home that was 2 females. Father found out about it, went to the psychologist and everything else, and goes, oh no, he's not going to be sitting down, spreading his leg and acting like he's wiping his vagina. He doesn't have a vagina. He has a penis. And if they can't recognize that thing and they don't know how to deal with it, then they have no business having a boy in their custody. I can't disagree with him. But the whole thing from the sit to pee, yeah, when you take a shit. But once again, you got that much of a problem, get a colostomy bag or something like that. Or once again, you're dealing with nasty motherfuckers, and that's not every fucking man. A man that knows what he's doing, he'll hit the damn water every time. Not a problem. And I always thought that was, well, there's other arguments too about the seat, the toilet seat, the hair, and everything else. And this thing goes, listen, unless you bald down there, you're going to shed, male or female. Second off the top of your head. If you find that gross that you've got hair on the toilet seat, Y'all better check the bottom of the shower. I'm just saying. How is it gross here but not gross? Hey, come on. Come on. This is what's called common sense. And at the same time, grow the hell up. What do they got? Cooties? What the? Y'all wash yourself. Clean some stuff. I mean, last time I checked, well, I'm not going to have a man, this because he's going to pee everywhere, this and that. I'm like, over here, I'm like, okay, now, ladies, this is between us, and we're going to have a minute here. Y'all make a hell of a mess when it's that time of the damn month all over that damn toilet seat. I don't care how much you wipe or anything else, the smell, the everything else, it's just that you just got to come to accept certain things. But how dare somebody that goes through that to turn around and go, I'm not going to clean up this. And I'm going, you do. You're trying to say your shit don't stink, and it's bullshit. I'm going to call you the hell out on it because it's the truth. But it's one of those things as humans we just learn to deal with as adults. Grow the fuck up. Going back into this, like I said, the psychological aspect of saying some of this is going on, and maybe an outside force or a group of people that you don't see them eating McDonald's every day, going through the drive-through and getting this and getting all these other poisons and other things that were in their body. But then you get other people to where and this is the sad part, and I look at people and I feel sorry for them that don't have the education or go to the grocery store and they buy nothing but garbage. Grocery store, I mean, and then, like I said, now, some of it was Section 8 or food stamps or some of the others, I really don't know, but make better decisions for your health, man, or your kids. Technically, that can, if CPS wanted, they could look at that as abuse. Y'all didn't think about the next step of this evolution with the food thing. You start giving your kid too many brownies or anything else, guess what? Guess what? They're going to come take your kids. Why? You feeding them bad. Malnutrition. Too many processed sugars, everything. Once again, this is forcing somebody's belief system on you rather than making your individual choice. But going back to the other of saying all those poisons, and look at what it does to your body and your mental state and this and that. And this is where you just have to stop and take a look around and go, a lot of people just don't know better or are not educated, doesn't have the information. But you really think that somebody that's doing a lot better off or the next level up or just better off on many different levels does what you do? I was always told that if you want to be successful, hang around people that are already successful. Why would you take and hang around with the lowest end of everything and expect anything to change? Be around people that you want to aspire to be like. And it works out great for business, especially when there are other great business partners, other businesses, even though they're not in the same business you are, they can help you out with certain things or this or that. It's good people and resources to have. How did you become successful? How did you do good in this? How did you do this? And it's, hey, I studied, people say, well, you just got to study. Well, how did you study? Maybe you could give me some pointers or something like that. I mean, I used to get that all the time with people to where it's just like, hey, I need to know to do better. I want to do better. I want to do this. I want to do that. Once again, strive for something. But so many people out there, especially with this, it's my kid, and it's like I have an unalienable right or something that you need to do this for me because you have the information and knowledge. I don't know anybody's shit. I'm here out of, once again, of saying, I'm doing this to help you out, but I sure as hell won't be demanded anything of me. I don't know you jack, and I don't know you on top of it. And I get that from time to time. And you got to stop people. Whoa. I don't this, I don't do. We're going to draw some boundaries real quick. I just educated. You want this? Come to this show. Go back on YouTube, watch past episodes. There's tons of information on every episode, and you can go back for a couple years. And it'll help you. You got to pick and choose what works for your case. I can't do that for you. You know your case the best. We'll educate you on some things that maybe you didn't know, probably quite a lot. But once again, getting into the whole big picture of this is there's puppet masters beyond this. CPS is just one puppet. The food industry is another puppet. Then you get into this, and you get into, I mean, listen, now they're going away with abolishing taxes altogether. Hey, they never had the right to collect it. It's all voluntary. They even acknowledge it, and everybody's like, well, wait a minute, I thought it was death and taxes and this, that. Nope. Now they're going after property taxes. Everything we knew to be truth or things we had to do was coming to find out it's been a lie and illegal. But, they dumb it down. Here, we'll just end the property tax. Well, what about all the money that I paid in for so many fucking years that you kind of fucking owe me now? Because if it was illegal now, it was illegal from the beginning. Now you're talking restitution. But once again, they'll sweep it under the rug and everybody will be happy. Well, I just don't have to pay that much anymore. Will you go to seek for your money or anything else for restitution? No. Matter of fact, you'll take probably a $2,000 check or something like that in the mail that, here, we're just going to pay you this, and this is consider your back wages from the state or whatever. You're going to find out the states have been doing a lot of things that are not constitutional or even legal, lawful, that they've been doing, and they've been making money at it. I heard one the other day that somebody said that an officer had said something. They want to stay at the station. They don't want to go out to the public anymore because everywhere they go, they're screwed up. They're this or that. They could get in trouble. And that's a great fear for them to have. But they're like, well, why are we the only ones? How come the judges don't get in trouble? How come that, this doesn't get in trouble, this or that? I'm a big proponent. This has just recently come up too, and I'm sure you'll agree. Your teachers in your public schools ought to have an oath to uphold the Constitution, because they are a local government employee. They are a state government employee. Yes, they should. Matter of fact, they should have an oath when they come in as a teacher. Why? Because half of this other nonsense that's been going on in public education, that shit would stop. Nope, can't do that. Unconstitutional. But did you listen to what that guy said about the constitutional lens that we've talked about? I'm going to view everything first on whether or not it's constitutional. That's huge. Five UAS. I don't. What's a UAS? A.B. Calyx Baird. Let's see, for a week, for over a year, which is compiled with, and then go and okay. I think you're talking about drug testing that you're going in on. When can they legal order this and that? Let me put it to you. Okay, UAs. Okay. Okay, one, your body is covered by the Fourth Amendment. Your family court judge is not an Article 3 judge. How do you tell the difference between Article 1 and Article 3 judge? Does the judge answer to the president? No, they don't. That's all federal judges. Everything else, that's an Article 3. That's why it's called Article 3 under Article 3 of the Constitution. They don't have the power to force you to do anything of your body you do not wish to do. They can't even give a court order. They can't even give a court order to enter a house, because everything that is Fourth Amendment protected is required by the Constitution to go before an Article 3 judge. So if they're wanting you to drop, okay, what they got caught up with, and this is something we blew the story on probably a year or so back, how they were stealing babies on these drug tests, and they knew that they were bad. And matter of fact, now there's massive lawsuits that they were buying these up in bundles. In other words, if you had the local hospital bought up a whole bunch of test kits, okay, then they sold so many of them because they came from the local medical supplier at a discount because they wanted the wholesale price. The county or the city or whatever, they would either have the same contract or they'd go with a local hospital and they'd get it from the same supplier. But they want, once again, it's as cheap as fucking possible. So what they ended up doing is exposing these drug tests. Like, here's a drug test from here, here, and here. Here's 5-hour energy drink. Here's Red Bull. Here's this and that. And watch it all pop for fucking meth or this. And they've done all these tests. Now all that evidence has been put together in a case. And now they're backing off and saying, well, we can't count on these drug tests because here's the issue. Those drug tests you took, I bet you if you dug just a little bit deep, is probably one of the manufacturers of those drug tests that are known to have bad tests and give off false positives, and they know about it. They knew whatever within their lab work or whatever was there. It's not. Once again, those quick tests are garbage. They're the worst thing. Sending something off to an actual certified lab, which once again that has come into question because we come to find out that there was another lawsuit to where a lady that was running a lab was doing that. And I believe, come to find out, once again, don't quote me on this, but was getting kickbacks from CPS to take certain children. So they would take the drug test, send it off, and there'd be a marker or a payment. This one fails, this one passes. So she was doing that, and they caught her doing that shit. That was a big story. I don't know if you guys caught that one. Well, once again, if you're talking about if it's never had positive or anything else, once again, you can't. Once again, a refusal is once again not in Michigan. Once again, I have the Fifth Amendment not to participate in anything that may incriminate me. It's a Fifth Amendment violation for you to turn around and hold a constitutional right. See, this is what I'm talking about, where you guys don't know, and I'm trying to teach you guys how to do some of these constitutional and put this on. Oh, no, you can put that down as, once again, I have a Fifth Amendment right not to take it because it may incriminate me. Hello? Was I read my Miranda rights? No? Well, then I'm not under subject to doing any of these things, and putting that down as falsifying stuff on the court because this is your policy and procedure. Once again, does it make it constitutional? You didn't follow the Constitution, and these are the processes. This is where you point out this is how the system failed. They wanted a drug test. It wasn't an Article 3 judge. There was never a court order for anything of this, and that. Hey, they said it, and because I refused to protect my Fifth Amendment rights and my Fourth Amendment rights, once again, they put down a falsified upon the court that it defaults to this. Well, that's falsifying court documents instead of saying refusal. To give a positive on something with no test is falsifying evidence. You got to learn how to, once again, these particular things, you've got to have that articulation to understand these things. That's a rights violation. How do I stop this? I'm in the lower court. Constitutional question. I'm going to suspend all this and I'm going to call you out on your bullshit and I'm going to go file a 1983 myself and I'm going to put this down. If I refuse a drug test based on my Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, can the state enter a false or enter a positive when there is no test results? Once again, that's false. And is that not considered, falsifying of court documents or fraud upon the court? These are things you can file a 1983 on. What drug test company are you using? What instant test are you doing? Are you aware of this? You can dig down that rabbit hole in a weekend. The name of the company that they use and this and that. I want to subpoena that. I want to get that information. Tell me the drug test you think. Why? Are they known for doing, bad tests? Is this, have they got pending lawsuits that brings it into question to where it's not reliable? These are things you can bring in of saying, I'm going to file this. I'm going to file all this as evidence. You can't use those drug tests. Hey, you put in a positive. That's fraud upon the court. That's stuff you can file a mandamus or a type of writ of serotonin up to your state appellate courts and get in there and go, and now I'm going to push it even further. I'm going to make it a constitutional question. How can you do that? That's a violation, let alone due process. That's falsifying court records. That's fraud upon the court. That's violated the Fourth. So if I exercise my rights, you're going to convict me of a crime with no evidence? And once again, if your stuff's negative, that's why you don't trust their system. Go get your own independent. And they can't say, well, that's not acceptable by the court. They're state licensed. How many? At the same time, you can get into the fact of, okay, let me show the certificate. Can you please provide the certifications that they're allowed to and trained to collect urine samples or hair follicles or this as a CPS worker? That takes a certain license in most states to do that. And if so, that's practicing something without a license. That's a felony, let alone in the medical field. Bet you didn't know that one. Do you know the court can't practice medicine? Judge can't decide this and that. They have to have a person stand up there and testify with the proper credentials, this and that. And no CPS does not qualify. Nor does their CAC workers as a psychologist or anything else. All the state guidelines are clear. If it's physical, you better have a doctor. And they better be there for cross-examination. If they didn't, that's the court practicing medicine without a license, because that judge doesn't have a license to practice medicine. Nor does the attorney, nor does anybody. Once again, you have got to look at it from a different perspective when you're analyzing your cases that I see so many people make mistakes of saying, I didn't realize it was all that. Yeah. Shows you how bad every little thing that they're doing is just crazy. The easiest thing to file, especially in a 1980, 1985, 1983, 1986, all those different ones, the biggest ones are fraud and constitutional rights. So if you say this was this and this and that, and you're pointing out the fraud, and everything you file, including your exhibits, support will get you through the front door to get your case going and going, nope, they pretty much they have them dead to rights on fraud. Oh, they got them dead to rights on constitutional rights violation, and it's all documented, especially when you can use their own documents against them. It's crazy. Yeah, here, look, it even says right here, they did this, that. Where's this? This is what's missing. Hey, your CPS worker documented the fact that they were in your house, right? Guys, they did it in their report. Matter of fact, they probably submitted it to the court. Did you ask them where their warrant was? White versus Pierce County. That once again, where's your warrant? Or your court order to even enter my home to even interview? Did you know that Doe et al. Versus Heck et al. Turns around and says you can't question somebody on private property? It's a form of seizure under the Fourth Amendment. So when an officer comes up to your door and stands in your doorway or on your curtilage or anything else, or a CPS worker, and asks you a question, even your damn name, it's considered a Fourth Amendment violation, and it all ends right there is where it's supposed to end. You broke the law. You're supposed to put me out on the curtilage, or past the curtilage onto the easement, bring you out to the road and question you, but you're on my property. Changes everything under the Fourth Amendment, but I'll bet you they didn't explain that to you, did they? We've got the case law and everything else to back it up. Once again, and that's what sucks. That's why they're scared of my filing. They're scared of the constitutional question. We're working on some more here to just hammer them out. But once again, it is what it is. Okay, so that would, anything you have to refute in court, make sure you do an affidavit of truth. To turn around to say, no, this wasn't, and present your evidence through here. This is why we tell you guys all the time, record, 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 record. Why? Because as soon as you come in with this and that, then you look into, like, I ended up catching somebody, a caseworker in Kentucky, with some stuff, falsifying stuff on the court, basically lying. And she's going to end up probably, like I said, she's in the lawsuit as of now. But going across this, she will probably be doing some jail time, because it's actually a criminal act in the state of Kentucky for a caseworker to put knowingly false information on there. And she did it more than once. And once again, when it was challenged, once again, it was kicked out. But like I said, this is all stuff moving forward as we get the premise of the basis for the case and to go through. Like I said, it's going to get real nasty. And like I said, it's going to grow and grow and grow. But once again, this is called due process for a reason. And you got to hash a lot of stuff out in your paperwork. It's not file paperwork, get discovery, this and that, and hurry up to trial. No, you need to be, if you're doing it and doing it right, you need to set the parameters. I have questions. I need, is this legal? Is this constitutional? I need to ask these questions. And then they have to answer those questions before you even go to trial. Because now we get to say, because, hey, Your Honor, you've already ruled on this is unconstitutional. I'm just pointing out the details of how it was unconstitutional. You've already ruled on this when you go into your civil case. That has a lot to do with it. Well, saying that you refused, I would turn around and go, objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Do we have any evidence? Once again, that's where you turn around. That's just turn around anything. Now, right there, not doing anything to block your things from filing anything with the court clerk, that is a huge violation of due process, and that is something that your state appellate court should be made aware of with a mandamus or a writ, saying that they're not. Now, if he's got something about structure or she's not writing in a particular way or anything else, that's just one of those things to get through. Listen, man, number one, you have a right to record anybody that's in government, so long as you're not stealing somebody else's privileged, private information. They don't want you to do it. But once again, guys, you got to work smarter. I shouldn't have to. The Crayon version, go on Amazon, look at recording devices. They're not that big anymore, and they're inconspicuous. So long as you've got it, it's yours. There's not a damn thing that they can do about it. Yeah, they can do this and that, but once again, this is why I, turn around. I've always recommended everybody, go get your press credentials. Why? Because you have a legal right to take and report on your own case. And I'm gathering evidence for my story. You can't stop this, and I have a right to report it. You can't put a gag order on this. Yeah. Press, freedom of the press. That's a First Amendment automatic, and you'll win that case hands down. It says right in here, I have a right to take and do this, and that's federal. So if you take that away, you're committing a federal crime of a First Amendment violation. It's the easiest thing to turn around. I'm press, and this was done. Automatically I'm moving to federal court. Change of jurisdiction, change of venue. We're going to federal. Why? Because you just committed a huge constitutional rights violation. Why? Because now you got fruit from a poisonous tree. This is corrupt. All this. Nope, can't do this stuff. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of people out there. Our just want to hear anything that doesn't come from the court-appointed attorney. Fire the court-appointed attorney if you so choose. You realize that's your right also. Failure, once again, ineffective counsel. Ineffective counsel. They're not doing their job. This is the stuff that should be done. And when you point it out and you write some of that stuff like in your writ or your mandamus to the appellate court, including the removal of your counsel, and you report your counsel as saying they're not doing their job, and you're saying, this is why, look at what I'm filing with you. And you don't have to go to your local court. Go to the appeals court, straight to your state appeals court, and file it. And tell them that they're refusing all your filings, which is illegal as hell. That's why you're filing it. And then look for that order, because I guarantee you that's an oral order. And they're going to say, I never have anything on file with that. Well, they told the clerk with this and that. Go into your clerk and say, the judge says you can't file anything. Get that on record. And walk out and do the whole damn thing. Why? Because you have every right to be at the clerk's office with a video. You're telling me I can't file? Nope. The judge turned around and said you can't do this and that. Thank you for giving me that. Why? Because I'm going straight to the Capitol. So, let's see. I don't know this. Am I wasting? Well, once again, that's once again that if you're doing 5 UAs a week, once again, that's unless you've got a history or they have probable cause to do that, I would turn around and do once again, stand on your rights. Fourth and Fifth Amendment, I'm refusing. And if you can't hold this against me, why? Because you don't have probable cause. And if I've not pissed dirty from here and here and here, this is once again, now you're just milking somebody doing, one Monday through Friday. That's ridiculous. And never popping. That's once again, that's financially draining you. That's a tactic to drain your money so you don't have money. I've seen that in several counties that will turn around. We're going to do this, that. How the fuck you got once a week is fine. And if you haven't popped after so many weeks, this is getting to be ridiculous once again. And then it comes down to, I'm going to stand on my Fourth and Fifth Amendment right. I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm going to submit a constitutional question because once again, this is entrapment and this is fraud upon the court. And you don't need this. There's no probable cause. Conversations or anything like that, I really don't do a whole lot of one-on-one advocating for this and that. I stick to the education thing because I have to stay focused on the big case and everything else that's going on. And I've still got some work to do that I'm going to work on. Doing the big thing, especially when you have to do that paperwork, you guys have got to understand you can do a writ, any kind of writ or a mandamus to your state appeals court at any given time. If your clerk won't accept it and boxes you out, or you have a court appointed attorney, you have every right to bypass, go straight to the Court of Appeals and just turn around and blow the whistle on all the corruption. As you say, it's easier if you say, this is the things they're doing, these are the things they're not doing. They're not letting, I've given this evidence to my attorney that would benefit, my defense in the case. And, it's like they're all working together. Now you're looking at possible RICO and some of the other things. This is not a fair trial. This is not, I'm not getting fair treatment in the court system that I'm guaranteed under due process. You start calling them out for shit. And at the same time, you can use federal stuff, constitutional rights, but use your states too, because they take that a little bit more serious. If you turn around and go, oh, wait, we violated state now you're getting into their realm, because then they say, well, we don't deal with federal, but you can deal with state. You file things with the appellate court. Yes, a writ or a mandamus is always your option. Even if you're in the middle of your trial and you realize things are just, this is fucked up, this ain't happening, and then they drag it out and you just turn around, well, I'm looking for a continuance. Why? Because I'm getting ready to file a writ or a mandamus on your ass, and I'm notifying the court. Here's your notice in court. Or I have to, notify the lower court. I'm filing this, and I walked up there and filed it. And I even had to tell them that, you wouldn't accept any of this stuff here. And then I'm being forced to use, your particular, your attorney. And then you got to do some research too, because those, especially GALs or court appointed attorneys, make sure that judge isn't over the program. I come to find out that for one judge, they're over the GAL program. So it's not a conflict of interest for you to be in the same courtroom of a GAL you appoint in any and all cases. You didn't disclose that, judge. Yeah, that's how you catch them. It's a conflict of interest. You can't hear the case. You're over the GALs. Hey, you're over the court appointed attorney. Who appoints the attorneys? It can't be somebody from the court. Once again, it has to be a third party. Once again, no bias. You got to eliminate the bias. And once you point out the bias, then that's the stuff you file and go, hey, this is kind of prejudicial. This is a bias. How can you have somebody that appoints, they're going to give me the worst lawyer? That's not fair. And no, we're not taking it on the integrity of a person. It's supposed to be done blind. Well, once again, you're in the lower court, and once again, fraud, document it. Once again, where did they commit fraud? File that with the next court up, and then that goes into your federal case, because fraud upon the court, you can't do this, you can't do that. Point it out. But the big thing that especially the federal court's going to say is, did you go to the appeals court? Yes. Okay. I at least put a writ or a mandamus. Now it's just getting to this point. I'm going to do this. And then to stop them all, like I said, especially everything, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've already filed with the appeals court. We've tried to get you to correct this stuff. Now I'm going to file a 1983, 1985, 1986 on your ass. And every person you put in front of me, I'm going to add to that lawsuit. Now we're deadlocked till we get to the federal court. Now we're in a stalemate. Now I can go up to the federal court and ask for a TRO to get my kids back because of the massive fraud or the amount of crimes that, that I've documented. And you got to, like I said, you got to have that stuff. Sorry, fighting a sneeze and my nose is itching. It's that wonderful green season. Yes, they can do that. They committed fraud within the thing. That is something that needs to be pointed out to the higher court. If the lower court will not listen, they turn around once again. And that can be part of get them to produce this, get them to produce that, get them to present clear and convincing evidence. That's what's required. And once again, they don't meet with that because once again, they're not challenged because they don't think you know about it. You got to have clear and convincing evidence, not hearsay. They'll give some time for hearsay, but eventually you got to back all this stuff up with hard evidence. That's the requirement of every state court, even family court, that they don't do. It is coming up, Judge, and has talked to them all, and my husband can't even get a hold of the lawyer. That's called ineffective counsel, unable to reach the court-appointed attorney. Once again, they got to have meetings. They got to have so much before. How do you even understand the case? You're not going to walk in and just, this is what we're going to do. That's not the way this works. Believe it or not, if they're becoming an up-and-coming judge, and that's what they're going for, but neglecting their clients, then that's something that needs to be reported, like I said, to the appellate court, to your state, the state of say, at least get I get a lot of people, well, it does no good. The report goes in, you realize that's still evidence in a federal case to where the state failed to discipline their own people, and you can use that against them. So, yeah, removing you from your home and not compensating you is a Fourth Amendment right, regardless if your children's in there or not. They can't remove you from your home, once again, and leave you with the financial burden. Therefore, the court would have to take over the insurance payment, the house payment, the this and that. I'm saying now I have a house I'm paying for that I can't live in. That's a huge Fourth Amendment violation. I can't tell you how many judges or magistrates I've seen do stupid shit like that of saying, well, we're going to take your house, but we're going to give it to grandma because grandma lives over in a trailer and it doesn't have enough thing. But if we give them your house, then you guys can just swap. And then, you guys go with this because it's in the best interest of the children. Fuck no, it's not. You son of a bitch, you can't do that. That's so damn illegal. Matter of fact, that's something that to be honest with you, that alone, according to the Constitution, you should be strung up at the outside of town and hung to your dead. And you're threatening a judge. No, I'm not threatening a judge. That's what the Constitution said. That's a Fourth Amendment violation. Oh, I know that's what they did, and it's illegal as fuck. You bring that up in a case that your property was seized from you and it was not compensated under the law to your mother-in-law. Of course. She got the nice house and everything else and bumped you out while you got the payments, right? Yep. Yeah, funny how these people, hey, that happened to me. Hey, that happened to me. Yeah, it's an age-old trick that you think they're not coordinated efforts across the United States doing this shit? Of course they are, because they know that you're not going to run to the court and say, hey, the state took my property and did not compensate me. You can't do that, and you can't give it to another person that's seizing it for the state's use. It doesn't matter, house, apartment, anything. It goes, once again, now you're looking at contract law. Because contract law, did you not sign a lease for that place or a rent agreement or anything else on it? Now the state has made you default in your contractual obligations, which are private. The state can't come in and do that. Once again, making you pay this and that. Once again, the court does not control the individual. Fuck off. I'm going to stop all this. I'm going to quit paying this, that, and I'm going to file on your ass. And it's going to stop. Oh, yeah. Blocked and returned. Like I said, put that before, once again, a federal court. It's a whole different court. It's a whole different ball of wax and rules. Yep, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to seize this. I'm going to take over your apartment. I'm going to seize your house. I'm going to seize it. You can't. You have to compensate. I'm the owner. I'm the leasee. Now you've caused a breach of contract. You can sue them for causing a breach of contract. Once again, it's a separate thing altogether. And because of the state, you're in the federal court, and the federal court's going to go, Yeah, he kind of Fourth Amendment fucked them, and at the same time, he kind of sees it and didn't compensate them. So, yeah, and you interfere with the private contract. Technically, both you and your landlord could sue the state if you so choose under breach of contract law because they forced you to breach it. They don't have that power to do that. It's private. And unless one of you has come in and says, I don't agree with it, or this contract's bullshit, or anything else, guess what? They can't do it. Now you've interfered with private contract law, and you can sue the judge, the county, the whole 9 yards, and the people that are in there, including mother-in-laws and everything else, and put them on a federal lawsuit and go, whoa, wait a minute. But the judge can't give something away like that. It was in your name. They interfered with the private contract. They don't have the ability to do that. There's no probable cause. Why? Because you or the landlord didn't go before that judge to make that decision. Instead, they stole something. Listen, man, lawyers, okay, they're not, there's a few that have got a good heart and a good head and a few things here and there. Understand they're part of this corrupt system, because here's the biggest issue. Under the 10th Amendment and Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, these courts don't even have jurisdiction. And all these people run around, oh, I've got jurisdiction, I've got power, the state's done this and that. And well, we're getting ready to find that out. And once again, he's friends with the attorneys against us representing. Once again, that's a conflict of interest that needs to go to the higher court. There's a conflict of interest where the judge has admitted on the record. Or I had one to where we provided pictures from somebody's Facebook between a judge and one of the attorneys of going, you failed to disclose this. They're supposed to disclose it and make sure you're okay with it before they proceed. Bet that didn't happen. Anyway. Well, guys, it's been fun. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit and getting some knowledge and education. I'm going to try and talk to the producer, like I said, and do some things where we're going to have a little QR code where you can scan and then come in the back room and limit our time. We'll have some of those details as we come along. But I want to thank you for joining us once again. Another episode of Gunning for CPS that people just, wow. I mean, it's just been crazy.
Came for the families.
But
The families are coming for them.
just keep fighting, man.
This is the reckoning.
To the Constitution a little bit of time, and more people are waking up, even those in places that it makes a difference. And like I said, it's just a matter of time. They can't sustain this. We can't sustain this. But the problem is that we got to have that constitutional lens with everything, and not see how we work around it, but how we protect it and run to the aid of the Constitution as their oath says they're supposed to do. Well, guys, it's been fun. Hope you pissed somebody off this week with the knowledge and education and a little bit more of the big picture that we've covered this week, how things are intertwined. How do you get in front of a federal court judge? You got to file in your division, in your state. Just look it under. Yeah, there's UCCJEA laws that deal with state to state, or more than 2 states that you can look at. But you file on 1983. There's other things that you can file with it, 85, this and that. Look through it. There's a civil cover sheet for your division. Use as much as you can, especially current cases, old cases, especially with them trying to kick things out of saying, no, you have jurisdiction under this, because you have to establish all that stuff, like I said, when you file. And, just like any other things, but there's tons of examples out there. And like I said, it's free to anybody for old cases that have been won to research and look how they filed their case and cases that were successful. All that's available. You just got to keep looking. So, guys, thanks again. We'll see you again next week. Don't forget to piss everybody off this week with your knowledge and education. Come back and don't forget to spread the word of the reckoning all the way around and what we're doing with this case and the constitutional questions and how it's going to change our country, because we know what it says, man. We know what it says, and it says it right there. All cases where the state's a party. Game over. That's what it is. See you next week.
Unite for CPS! Unite for CPS! Unite for CPS!